That's a little bit of the dream of making art, isn't it? It makes you live a little bit longer. It makes you live.
Is it immortality?
It's got something tied in with it.
Yeah.
Anything we put outside our body onto something has often got that resonance, hasn't it?
I want to beat death.
Yeah, or I want to be remembered.
I want to be remembered. Exactly. So Matt,
It's an ego thing.
tell me a bit about this.
So the neoplasm is, I guess, mostly associated with the neo being new, plasm formation, as the Latin goes. So I wanted to play with this new formation that is actually, neoplasms are associated with cancer growths. But cysts are often mistakenly in medicine, neoplasms as well. So it could be ominous, it could be scary. But the main area that I'm looking at and thinking about is that this new formation could be a lot more positive, a lot more crazy, a lot more interesting than we'd ever imagined. A little bit like death, in the sense that, you know, we don't know about death, and it could be really exciting and interesting.
Could be a new beginning.
Exactly, it could be anything. And I guess it's a little play with these things. So I'm using the language of medicine, botanicals, and throwing them around a little bit.
Botanicals.
The botanical drawing, the flowers that are going on there.
Right.
All of it is originally derived from looking at medical books, anatomical books, surgery, botanical things, and slowly but surely I got more comfortable using it together homogeneously and making a kind of chaos that could come together. So it's a little proposition for me.
Okay. Now you've just come from work, which is...
I was working at St. Thomas's tonight.
Okay, and what do you do there?
So I was doing diabetic eye screening today. So I was taking a lot of photos of the backs of the eyes of diabetic patients to see how they're doing, see if they're healthy. Preemptive, trying to make sure that, you know, the disease, the high blood levels.
So you work in medicine, that's where the work comes from?
It actually, the job came from the artwork.
The job came from the art? Well, that is really interesting. Go on, tell me.
Well, I did study art, and so I did the BA and the MA, and it all became more and more and more anatomically related, medically interested. And I started looking for that normal job. And
which you need to these days.
It was a medical photographer. And so I do that 4 days of the week. And it's pretty easy going. It's not too many hours. It doesn't overstress me. So it does give me that push and pull. I'm also able to help people, which is quite nice.
That is nice.
I actually like being nice and actually taking away the ego bit, where I'm proposing all these amazing things towards infinity and then reel it all back so that I can just be a nice guy, help people that come in that might have a little bit of fear, hesitation, and they want to know how they're going to do. So
superb. So art students, remember, concentrate on your art, and your parents can proudly say to their neighbours, yes, my child works in medicine. Yes. Yeah. And helps people. Yeah.
And he's a nice guy.
And he's a nice guy as well. Exactly. This bit here, that looks very sort of cellular, as it were, in a way, or bacteriological. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's that growth. It is the epicenter. It is basically that that part that is starting to develop, starting to divide and mutate and give energy to the whole thing. It feels a little bit almost. When I started painting it, it felt almost nuclear to me in a sense.
It's kind of also what you see. You sometimes see astronomical photos of nebulae, and it looks like that. This thing about
psychedelic almost.
Psychedelic, but also nature, the universe, so many patterns are repeated. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So how long did
Repetition means a lot in this work actually as well. A lot of other works as well that have even more layers than this and more going on. Even the flowers, I did have. There's a lot of repetition that you'll see in different drawings that I've taken using tracing paper, and I'll trace old drawings and turn them over and put them around. So the process of going on to transparency just seemed to be like another evolution of how to make images from paper to canvas, and then project things, turn them around, work on both sides. So that convolution of life, an unpredictability of a composition, of making art, of being a certain way when you start making artwork to when you get to a point where you're trying to be methodical. You know, it all has this push and pull that you want to get out of being too methodical.
And I see that's reflected. I don't know. I've just noticed, and this has been up for, well, 2 months. Has it been up for 2 months?
3 months.
3 months.
3, yeah.
And I've just noticed here, there's writing. Can you get that on the thing? It says spontaneous and homeostatic.
Yeah.
Which, as you say, spontaneous, homeostatic. Let it go, rein it back in.
Yeah.
So, how did it just occur to you to write on it?
Yeah, some are straight from the material, like the primary and the secondary and the tertiary, you know. But then I go well past any normal medical terms of actually just how I'm responding as well. There are a few little notes in there sometimes that are just mine about how I feel about
stream of consciousness.
Yeah, letting it go a little bit. It looks very much more controlled than it was when you make it, because of the plastic, because of the pen.
Take us through how you made it. How long did it take? When did you start this?
Yeah, it took, I don't know, I think I worked on it for a month. I let it go for a bit and then went back to it. But I play with those tracings that I have. I throw them around a little bit. I make lines. The compositions.
How does it start at the beginning? You get an idea.
Sketchbooks. I'm all about the sketchbooks. Actually, I realised yesterday I posted a little sketchbook on Instagram, and then
what's
realised
your Instagram?
Oh yeah, Matt Collier.
Matteo Collier. Okay. How many T's? 2 T's. Matteo Collier.
We're in sync.
Okay. And so it starts with the sketchbook, and you said that you'd been. Was this prompted by your work in medicine?
Somewhat. I think it's just like in a relationship with the body. It is really just, these ones are looking a little bit more at a kind of smaller nuclei, so to speak, that starts small and is moving into a kind of, universe, chaos or language. Whereas others might be looking a little bit more formally at the external gross muscles and organs at large, as well as the rubber gloved hands of the surgeon.
Right.
You know?
Right. So it starts with the sketch. It starts in your head, obviously.
The sketchbook, the source material,
right,
composition.
Right. And the sketchbook, and then you mentioned tracing.
And the tracing, comes from worked on drawings that took a little bit longer, and I want repetition to work in there. Okay. With nature, it's quite interesting because our genes and our DNAs, they want to replicate. They want to reproduce in a kind of either mirror form or a perfect copy in many ways. But mutation, environmental factors, all kinds of different things, as well as the mixture of genes of different parents, change everything. Yeah. And so I think, I don't know, these are just little things that work with me. Yeah. In how to make artwork. You know? And so you start with the sketchbook, and when did you have the idea to put it on Perspex from the beginning? No, I didn't. When did that start? Yeah. I think that I actually was doing animation on very thin pieces of plastic for years and years. Because I really started off working almost as a really influenced by cartoon and manga, and how that pulls apart, and then it was always the body, and then it looks almost animated. So that's, I guess, my interest in movement.
Yeah. Well, you can see a lot those almost Rorschach. They look halfway between birds and Rorschach drawings,
and that's
like they're flying.
That's my only real influence by another artist that I really love called Henri Michaud. He's a poet and just did drawings, ink drawings, in the 50s. He was also one of the few. Did a little bit like Huxley, experimented with mescaline and wrote them down.
Right.
And tried to be methodical about a kind of psychedelic entry into other worlds of the mind and ourselves. But his drawings are phenomenal. So they were kind of derived when they started accidentally reminding me of it. I just went with it.
You went with
because it worked for this drawing, painting.
So you're doing the sketchbooks, and then when would you say the idea, I'll put this on Perspex, comes in?
Gosh, can I remember? I can't. Well, I think it's just from the animation.
Right.
It did make sense. I did it 2 years ago for the first time.
Right. Well, it's called growth translation, so it's only natural that things should grow and organically from the idea and then
become something.
Exactly. Become something.
It's also to do with language as well. When I think of drawing, I do think I'm writing. I do feel like I'm drawing.
Yeah.
Painting.
Yeah.
Is only ever as good as the drawing, but I always feel like, when I get so far into a drawing, it's good enough.
Yeah.
And the painting, it can bring a kind of like extra, animation to it, or extra life to it.
Yeah.
It can initiate it, but I still think that drawing for me is still the most powerful way of visually creating things.
Well, communication.
Yeah.
Drawing is all about, script started with pictures, didn't it? Originally hieroglyphics and
maybe less pretentious too, because there's you can sort of feel like, I hope that people would look at that and say, oh, I could kind of do that, or I could kind of add to that, or I could work with this. It's not a finished masterpiece or whatever where people say, gosh, I have no idea how that was made,
Interesting.
And I like that because it
so
shows.
So you consider it unfinished?
I think most artists consider everything a little bit unfinished, don't they? In many ways, a lot of them say that they just know when to abandon it. Others say, just as they start to ruin it, and everyone has a kind of hardship with what's finished when you've started it, and you're the boss, so to speak.
Curious, because I'm just in the middle of a biography of Duchamp, and he talks about the large glass.
Yeah, that's true.
And he says, to him, he abandoned it and it was unfinished, and it was only finished when it shattered, when it cracked in 1926 on the way upstate. He'd sold it to somebody and they laid it flat on the back of a truck, and as it was going upstate New York, it shattered, but it shattered sort of very symmetrically like fishbone, and he said, well, now it's finished.
Right, he is the master of you don't know what he really thought.
You don't.
Because it is open, and it's just really good not to know things. To know everything is not art in the end. When you've finished your ideas and they're finished, I'd be kind of confused to why someone would be comfortable carrying on with knowing. Knowing things is really a lot less interesting than asking lots of questions, I think.
Great. I think that's a good place to finish.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll never know. Matt, if you'd like to get... Okay, you've given your Instagram. Anywhere else we can see your work?
I have mattcollier.com, and yeah, the Instagram at Matteo Collier, as well as a mural website of murals that are also quite botanical and anatomical, themuralofmurals.com.
Superb. Thank you very much. This has been Matt Collier and Aaron Barschak for Bookery Gallery TV.
Proper TV.